Push the ständer up and move over a little bit so that. Okay. What? Maybe after Myra. Right now we're continuing Sefer Shmuel. Okay. Okay. We last time we learned the very first pasuk in Perek Yud, and what we're going to start today is a unusually interesting journey that Shaul HaMelech went through. That Shaul HaMelech went through on his way from Shmuel HaNavi to Klal Yisrael, because what was happening was that Shaul, as we know, there was a journey. Just to recap, Shaul had been sent by his father to look for the 3 donkeys that got lost, the Gimel Asoinos, and Shaul didn't find them. He gave up. He didn't find them, but he went to consult with the Navi to see if the Navi could tell him where they are. And instead of the little surprise there, instead of the Navi telling him where the donkeys were, which the Navi did tell him that they were found, but the Navi decided to tell him that he's going to be the king of Klal Yisrael, the first king of Klal Yisrael. And then we saw the each step of the journey was lessons to Shaul HaMelech about being king. And finally, Shaul, this great tzaddik, this young, great tzaddik, Shaul, this humble tzaddik, is anointed with oil. So Shiloh, what type of oil, if you recall? But he's anointed with oil, the way that kings are anointed, and he's declared the king of Klal Yisrael. But he's declared king in private. Nobody is around. He has no proof. And the reason for this is because soon Shmuel is going to make a public display of appointing Shaul to be king, and that public display is going to be a miraculous public display that Shmuel is going to make a geirul. He's literally going to pull a name out of a hat and say this guy is king, because he's going to know with complete emunah that the name that's going to come out of that is going to be that of Shaul HaMelech, and that's indeed what happened. But right now we're up to that Shaul was declared Melech in private. And at this point, Shmuel wants Shaul to encounter every type of Jew. Because the truth of the matter is that if someone is going to be a Melech, you can't be a Melech just to the good guys, or just to the easy guys. A person that's going to be a Melech has to be a Melech to the entire Klal Yisrael. Those that are more observant, those that are less observant. Those that are more interested, those that are less interested. Those that have an easier time concentrating, and those that have a harder time concentrating. We don't have a right. It's a very, very, very disturbing sometimes when mechanchim or leaders decide that they should choose who they should be mechanech or leader. That's not for us to do that. Just like in Mirza Hashem, we don't get to choose our children. Hashem doesn't give you the dean sent out this survey. You guys got the survey? The dean sent out a survey. You'll see it in your email. The dean sent out a survey about what courses they're going over, what the core curriculum should be. And you're not going to get a survey when your wife is expecting. Like, what kind of child would you like? Smart or not so smart? Well-behaved or not so well-behaved? You're not going to have that. Your job is going to be mechanech, the child that Hashem sends you. And that's a big lesson. And therefore, Shmuel HaNavi says in Nevuah now, telling Shaul exactly who he's going to meet. And indeed, Shaul meets these people, and each one represents a different type of Jew from the bottom of the barrel, working our way upwards. And the point is that each one needs to be given the same care and time and energy as the others. To me, that's a very, very tremendous ideal. Rabbi Emanuel Feldman, is anyone familiar? Rabbi Emanuel Feldman is the brother of Rabbi Aaron Feldman, who's the Rosh Hashiva in Eretz Yisrael. And he lives in Eretz Yisrael now, Rabbi Emanuel, but for many, many years, he was the premier Rav in Atlanta, Georgia. He became a Rav when he was very, very young, and he was a Rav there, I think, for 40 years. And I was always very inspired from him. Became Rav when he was very young, and he carried a community. And as Hashem would have it, I ended up becoming a Rav when I was very young, and I've been trying to build a community. In fact, a bunch of years ago, I was in Atlanta for a wedding, and Rabbi Emanuel Feldman was there visiting. His son, Rabbi Elon Feldman, is the Rav there. And I went over to Rabbi Emanuel and I said, I just want to say thank you because I was very inspired when I was younger from the Rav's book. From the Rav's first book, I said, Tales Out of Shul. And he looked at me and he said, it was my 7th book. I'm like, okay. But so that was the conversation didn't really get anywhere after that. But Tales Out of Shul, which I strongly recommend, is a fascinating book written by a Rav that literally started in his youth to be a Rav and had to carry Klal Yisrael through some difficult times. And he tells this story that each year they would have this Israel bonds dinner where they would raise money for Israel bonds. And every synagogue in town, the Orthodox, the Conservative, the Reform, would recommend members to go attend, to be like invited guests by this very special dinner. It was a black tie affair. It was a big deal. See, he was told, we would like you to invite 10 of your very special members to the dinner. Now, he was young, but he was not stupid. And he understood that 10 of your very special members meant 10 of your very rich members. But he was a little insulted about that. Why are we just giving respect and cover to the wealthy members? Why is that? He said, they want my special members, I'm giving them my special members. And he sent 10 people from the shul that he thought were genuinely special people. They were not happy with him. But I remember as a kid reading that story and really respecting that, and that's the lesson that Shmuel Navi, Rabbi Feldman, got the message. Got Shaul HaMelech's message. But that's really the message that Shaul is going to teach. So let's look at this next pasuk or two to see what's in store for Shaul HaMelech. Pasuk Beis, Perek Yud, Pasuk Beis, Shmuel tells Shaul, B'lechtecha hayoim me'imadi, when you go today from being with me. Meaning, Shaul was telling, we have to be very, very careful. Very careful. We never stress someone out to look inside. There are people that the only reason why they're able to come to a shiur and participate is because they don't have to look inside. So that's the there's no looking inside pressure. When you go today from being with me, I think Nima, it just occurred to me today when I taught this the first time, I did not say this. Why is he saying when you go today from being with me? Why doesn't he say when you go today? Obviously he's with him. I think he's saying take my hashpah with you. You just spent time with me. You just spend time with me. Take the hashpah with you. No, that's a trap. And you will find. Now this is a Peladik pasuk. Chazal themselves go crazy from this pasuk. This pasuk has caused much indigestion in the last few thousand years. Okay, it says you will find shnei anashim. You will find 2 men im kvuras Rachel, with, meaning by the burial place of Rachel, bigvul Binyamin, by the boundary of Shevet Binyamin, b'tzeltzach, in Tzeltzach. Seems pretty simple, right? Except that Rachel wasn't buried in Shevet Binyamin. That's not where she was buried. She was buried in Beis Lechem, Yehuda, as we all know. Right? We know the story. She died on the way. She was buried in Beis Lechem. That's where Kever Rachel is till today. That's a problem, no? It's a big problem. So Rashi says, B'Shem Chazal, that the way to read it is, Umatzasa Shnei Anoshim, you will find 2 people, Im Kvuras Rachel, that are right now, they're by Kever Rachel, and you will find them B'Gvul Binyamin. You will find them when you get to the boundary of Binyamin. In other words, the Navi is telling, he's the Navi. He's saying, right now there are two people there, you're here, you will meet them b'gvul Binyamin. But of course, we want to know why we care that they're by Kever Rachel now. Like, why is that an important thing? Says the Malbim, Dvarim Nifla'im Ma'oid. Says the Malbim that these two people represent the lowest layer of Klal Yisrael, the ones that are most megusham, they're the most physical, they're the hardest to get to. They're the ones that when you speak, they're making late sunnis. You know why people make late sunnis? Because late sunnis is the great deflector. If I'm giving a shmooze and somebody starts fighting with me during the shmooze, rejecting what I'm saying, I'm not as sad for that person as if someone makes a joke. I'm all for jokes, but I just mean that, at that moment. You know the moment that you're like bringing your shmooze together, that punchline, that emotional moment, and then someone says something stupid. That person is a great deflector. And he's afraid. He's afraid to take it seriously. Okay? So that's what these people are. They're so megushim, you can't even see a ratzon in them. People like that are called im kvuras Rachel. You know why? Because Rachel represents the pnimius of our neshama, our mama Rachel. Kvuras Rachel means I buried that neshama. They're im kvuras Rachel. The neshama is buried. Important lesson, by the way. Don't think they don't have one. You might see such physicality, such lack of interest, such crassness and callousness that you'll say, like, there's no neshama in there. No, it's kvuras Rachel. It's buried. And you'll meet them by the boundary of Binyamin, B'Tzeltzach, in Tzeltzach. You've been to Tzeltzach? What's Tzeltzach? Says Chazal, Tzeltzach is Yerushalayim. B'Tzeltzach, in the shadow of the Shining One. That's where you will meet these two people. Okay? Now, this is just over the top, this pasuk, okay? Ve'omru eilecha, these two people will say to you. Now, Josh, when you read a pasuk and it calls Yerushalayim by some random name, in this shiur we understand that that's a ha'ara. Like, it wouldn't have cost anything to say Yerushalayim, and then Mishael would have known what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's something that should be bothering you. Why do you name it Tzeltzach? Sweet, but like, what does it got to do with what's going on here? Right? And then they're going to say to you, these people are going to say to you, Nimtzu ha'asaynos, the donkeys were found. They will kindly let you know that the donkeys were found. Asher halachta levakesh, that you went to search for. V'hinei notash avicha es divrei ha'asaynos. Your father has abandoned worrying about the donkeys. V'da'ag lachem, and he's worried for you. Leimar saying, Ma eseh libni, what should I do for my son? Listen to this. This is unbelievable. Why do these people go over to Shaul and say, the donkey, I heard you're looking for donkeys. They were found. Now your father's worried about you. Why? Why is it that these people say that? They don't want to engage. They don't want to talk in learning. They don't want to, right? They're kvuras Rachel. The neshama is buried. What they're doing is, the Malbim starts this conversation, but he doesn't finish it. So we're going to have to take it upon ourselves to fill in the blanks here. Okay? The Malbim says the reason they're talking about donkeys is because there's a kinship between them and the donkeys. Now what he means by that is that different animals represent different spiritual states. And the most physical of the animals is the chamar. As we know, Gashmius is called chamrius, physicality. The chamar represents physicality. So these people that are so megushim, they feel connected to Asaynais. And without realizing what they're saying, okay? Michelle, get ready for this. They say to Shmuel Navi, the Asaynais were found. Now your father's looking for you. What is he saying? He's saying, don't look at people like us as donkeys. Find the beni inside them. Forget about the donkeys were found. Here, the physical people. But we need to search for the beni. Not Ashavicha is Divrei Asaynais. He's not concerned with the Asaynais. V'da'ag lochem leimar mo'es el b'ni. That's the mashal, saying that when you meet that person and he seems disinterested and he's making jokes in the back and he seems to be so physical, you feel like you're sitting. You know, it happens sometimes. Like you can be sitting like by a kumzitz and everyone is singing and the tears in people's eyes and it's just like another world. And there's a guy like, are there any more chicken nuggets? You know, like seriously, like, you know, you can hear it in the recording, you know, loud, like, well, 1 second, what happened to the chicken nuggets? Like, that's why you came, like, don't stop worrying about that guy. Don't neglect that guy. Ma'es el ibni. There's a spiritual person in there. There's a ruchniistic person in there. Don't be distracted by the walls that he puts up. And that, Mishael, is the pshat and the tzeltzach. These guys are coming from Kvuras Rachel. They buried their neshama. But now you're finding them in the place of the shine of the Shechina. Because that's how we relate to them. We respect that journey. Every person, every yid is on a journey. And just like they traveled physically from the place of the burial of Rachel to the place of the expression of the Kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so too in their lives they will be able to make that journey. But we have to believe in them. We have to trust that they'll be able to do that. And that's what's going on, a mashal within a mashal within a mashal here. All in the journey that Shaul HaMelech is making on his way to become the king of Klal Yisrael. It's a half leva fel. It's unbelievable. It was worth the entire day of yeshiva today to read this pasuk. Just an unbelievable pasuk. Okay. Now we're going to go up in the ranks a little bit. Till now we spoke about people that they themselves don't have a sense of their desire to grow. I once was counseling a couple, and the wife was feeling very neglected, and like her husband's not making her a priority. In the words of this wife, and I've heard this lashon from many women, he's not making me his number one. Okay? I want to be his number one. So I met with the guy. Nima, this sounds like an easy case. I met with the guy. I was like, maybe we need to work a little bit on making your wife your number one. He said to me, I still can't believe this happened to me as I say it over. I can't believe it. He says to me, I'm not focusing on that right now. Right now, I'm focusing on building a successful business. My wife will have to wait. What? He said, yeah. If you're asking me if I think I should focus on my marriage, I am not. I'm just telling you. Rebbe tells me I am not focusing on my marriage. I need to make a lot of money. My heart went out to her, and the truth is, my heart went out to him. That his priorities are so skewed. That he thinks that you could find happiness without a good relationship with money. You could find happiness with a good relationship without money. But you can't find happiness with a negative relationship and money. Money never helped for that. Never. And we have people that feel that way about Avodas Hashem. Like, I can't focus on my Avodas Hashem right now. I have to be successful. Yeah, but But Hashem, like we talked about this morning, Hashem is the one that's with you always. Hashem is the one that takes care of you. Hashem is the one that believes in you. Hashem is the one that loves you. Really? And Hashem is the one that makes you successful. You're neglecting the most important thing in your life. And there's nothing that you could possibly want to pay attention to that wouldn't be dealt with if you would deal with your relationship with Hashem. So that's the type of people we're talking about. And it's our job to stick with them and to be mechazik them. I want to tell you something else. I have a Talmud from many, many years ago who I love very, very much. Very, very intelligent, smart guy. And right now, he is, at this point in time, he is not religious. And he lives in Yerushalayim. And he's a psychologist. And I go to Eretz Yisrael, as you know, every couple of months. And whenever I go, I got the text from him today. I get a text from him before. I heard that you're coming into Eretz Yisrael. Would you like to get together to schmooze? This guy does not believe in Hashem. And he's a smart guy, and he can debate with the best of them. And that's painful for me. And I don't hide it from him. That's painful for me. However, what I find magnificent is that even in his life of rejecting Hashem, even in his life of living a life that's the antithesis of the lifestyle that I live or that I would want him to live, he never misses calling me when I get there to Israel to schmooze with me. Why does he want to schmooze with a 51-year-old rabbi? Why? Because even when it seems like someone is completely closed off, the Rachel is there. It might be Kvuras Rachel, but the Rachel is there. And I'm there for him as long as he wants. As long as he's interested in connecting with me, I am going to say yes. Even if it's hard on my schedule, and even if I feel like I'm too exhausted, because there's a Rachel there that wants. And I love the guy, so that's also why. But that's the first step. V'chalafta misham, and you will go away from there. V'hala, and you will go further. Ubasa ad Eloin Tavar, you'll come to Eloin Tavar, which is a place in Eretz Yisrael. Umitzaucha sham shloisha anashim. 3 men will find you. You're not going to have to find them; they're going to find you. These 3 men are searching. Each one, we're not going to have time this week. Maybe the next week I'm not here, but the week after. Each one is searching on a different level. But these are 3 types of searchers. And that's why they're going to find you. They're going to stop you. They're going to want to learn from you. And your indication that they're interested in growth is that you're going to find them Oilim Elha Elokim. They're going up to Hashem. They're on their way to bring a carbon. They're on their way to the Mishkan. There was no Beis HaMikdash yet at this time, but there was a Mishkan. And they're on their way up to bring a carbon. Beisel, to Beisel. That's where the Mizbeach was at the time. And each one is going to be holding different things. And depending on what they are holding, you will understand where they're up to in their ruchnius. Echad noisei shloisha gediyim. One of them will be carrying 3 goats because he wants to bring a carbon. He wants to bring a carbon of 3 goats. Okay, the echad noisei shloishes kikros. The other one will be carrying 3 loaves, lechem, of bread, which we'll see. They're going to offer Shaul some bread. The nevuah is going to be that they'll offer you some bread. The echad noisei nevel yayin, and one is going to be holding a jug of wine. Says the Malbim that these 3 people are 3 types of Ovdei Hashem in descending order. He says the one that's Isaac in Avodas Hashem, It's always the big question. Am I serving Hashem for me or am I serving Hashem for Him? For most of us, that's a big challenge. Ultimately, we daven to Hashem because of what we need. But certainly we understand that the goal of our avodas Hashem is that it's not about me. I'm here because I want to serve. And this first person that wants to bring karbanos to Hashem, he wants to take from his own resources and bring them to Hashem. He's not making his avodas Hashem about him. The second guy, however, is holding bread. Bread means that's parnasa. Says the Malbim, this is a guy who's negotiating with God. You know the negotiators, right? Hashem, I will daven to you, I will show up to Seder, and you will find me a good shidduch. You will make sure I have money. You will make sure I'm healthy. Hashem, we have a deal. If Hashem doesn't do his side of the deal, we get a little impatient with him. Hashem, we have a deal. What's going on over here? So that's the kikrois lechem. That's the person who has a deal. And the navel yayin, the person that's carrying the jug of wine, I'll get more into this next time, Be'ezer Hashem, but just to give you a little bit of the heads up, the one that's carrying the jug of wine, he's also doing a reciprocity with Hashem, but he's not just telling Hashem, I'd like to have food to eat and a woman to marry. He's telling Hashem, I'd like to have hundreds of millions of dollars. I want everything. I want all the enjoyment of this world, Hashem. I mean, serving you is the most amazing thing in the world, so the schar should be over the top. That's the wine. I want the over the top. This type of reciprocity in avodas Hashem is something to be very wary of. Be'ezer Hashem, with Hashem's help, next time we'll start with this, and we'll discuss how to get out of that loop. You know that loop? Where we have this like tug-of-war with God? So we'll discuss next time how to get out of that loop of reciprocity, that transactional relationship with Hashem, and how to grow to a real relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Be'ezer Hashem, Yashakaya. You'll send it to Mo?